So we're back with Frank Baylis, a member of Parliament, talking about his motion to improve how Parliament is done, how politics is done. Um, do you think other MPs will? You introduced a motion that died. Um, in a sense, it hasn't disappeared completely because
No.
it's in Hansard, it's there. Do you think others will pick it up, or
Some have told me they have a strong interest. Many were let down that I decided not to come back because they wanted me to come back and continue to push forward with these changes. So I think there's a great interest.
yeah?
I can't speak if someone else will pick it up. And of course, what depends a lot will depend on what happens in the election, who's in power, who's not, if it's a majority, minority. But certainly I could say that the average MP that I spoke to wants to see these changes. If not these particular changes in this manner, they want to see things
Okay.
improve.
Can you tell me a couple of the changes that you were looking for?
Yeah, I was trying to do three things. And what's happened over time, and it's happening all over the world, is the experts call this a period of autocratization, where that means the opposite of democratization. So all over the world, strong men, they are men, are pulling power towards themselves. So we see that in all the great powers, people claiming themselves as dictators, fake elections, all this stuff. And this process is not uncommon to Canada. It's happened, but in an imperceptible way, where the Prime Minister's office has become more and more powerful and the decision making is in less and less people's hands. So I want to break that up. And I want to break it up in three ways. I want to give power back to the Speaker of the House. He has lost his power, she has lost her power over the years, where it used to be the Speaker, as the name clearly suggests, decides who speaks. But over time, that power has been usurped by the center. And that's a really bad thing. And we all need to put the power back into the Speaker's hands. And again, these aren't my ideas. These were ideas many people have put forward in the past.
And when you say the speaker, are you talking about who's recognized in question period?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Who's recognized in question period, who's recognized in debate. So right now, the Speaker has no power to regulate other than kicking someone out, which is like using a hammer to open a peanut. So in the past, what would happen if someone was really behaving bad, the Speaker would call the person over and say, listen, start behaving good or you won't get to speak in the House of Commons. The person would understand that. But now they don't care what the Speaker says because the person decides if they speak is their leader, not the Speaker. That's a perversion of our system. And by the way, it's only a perversion in Canada. It's not happened anywhere else in the Westminster democratic system. So we need to fix that and put it back. So that was one aspect of the changes. Powers back to Speaker. Second thing was powers to the members of Parliament. Many people have said this, and I don't want to denigrate what's happened in the sense of putting people down, but members of Parliament have lost their ability to be independent. If we compare ourselves, say, to Westminster, England, Great Britain that is, the government will lose votes all the time because their members are freer to vote the way they feel on their conscience and that. Here, the whip has far too much power over the members of Parliament. And if you don't do as the government wants every single time, you're going to get the whip coming down on you very hard. So what happens is you find yourself in many positions, I found myself in that as well, saying, look, I don't agree with this, but if I vote against this, they're going to bring the hammer down and they're going to make me completely ineffective. I won't be able to speak in Parliament. I may be taken off my committee. I won't be able to travel. There's all these things that they'll do if I don't follow along. So you constantly have to say, is this the sword I want to die on? Is this really the place I want to destroy my career?
So how do you fix that?
What you have to do...
How could you take that power away? They don't have to admit they're taking you off a committee because you spoke up on something.
Well, the first thing is that they don't decide who's gets to speak. That's number one. Second one is they don't decide who's in charge of committee. This is an idea, again, that's done already in the Westminster system, where the House of Commons will pick who's the chair of the committee. This changes the dynamics a lot because right now the committee system is also messed up due to the overpower of the center, so that my job as a committee member, which is to take laws in place, relook at them and say, okay, how do we make this better or not after I hear expert testimony from witnesses, I'm constrained because I hear great testimony and I see I can make this law better, But then the Senate will say, no, don't change anything. We don't want you to change anything, even for no reason whatsoever. And I say, okay, well, if I change it, they're going to kick me off, this and that. So this is a big problem we have with our system. And we're looking to rebalance that to give the members of parliament back their powers.
Some of the other changes?
Third change was I want to give the citizens more power. So right now what happens in Parliament, we talk to our citizens once every 4 years in the sense of, do you like what we're doing? Do you want to re-elect us or not? But there's again a system where now we have electronic petitions, and this was brought in by an NDP person called Kenny Stewart, who's now actually the mayor of Vancouver.
Right.
But when he first brought it in, he also wanted to let the electronic system, as they have in the United Kingdom, if they got enough people signing a petition, it would be debated in the House of Commons. Well, that was killed. He was able to get the electronic petitions through, but that part was taken off. But I wanted to put that in there. And what that would mean is that if citizens really cared about something, so say for example, that the citizens in British Columbia really cared about a salmon run in a certain river, and they want to hear where the government was on that. If they got 70,000 signatures on a petition, we would debate it in the House of Commons. It's not to say we'd vote for or against something, but they could push something into the House of Commons. So essentially what the motion was trying to do was take power from the center, give it back to the Speaker, give it back to the members of Parliament, and give it to the citizens. And I firmly believe that that would make us a better democracy. And then what would happen is we would have better debates, and it would be less acrimonious as well.
Just on that third point about petitions, one of the arguments that's made about it is extremists would put forward certain petitions with extreme views that are racist, sexist, etc.
No, there's no worries here because I don't want to go into the weeds of it, but obviously you wouldn't just go in right away. So if there was a petition that met the criteria, it would still go to a committee called Procedures Committee, and there they would do a few things. They would look it over to say, is this stupid, spurious? Like someone saying, I want Frank Baylis to change his name to something else because they think it's funny. Or is it something we've already debated or it's already been decided in this parliament? So there would have been a process to weed out all that nonsensical, egregious type of people trying to do something. That wouldn't be there.
Yeah. So what you've done, one of your contributions in Parliament was to summarize a whole lot of issues that have been out there and put it into a motion with 3 parts. Do you think will you continue to speak out on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I decided this time to take a step back because I just could not go back to the same thing again, which is the carrying on. And again, I don't want to blame one side because if you talk to any MPs, they'll say, well, Frank, it's all their fault. Whoever they are, they're always willing to point fingers. And I'll say again, 80% more of the people there are good people in good faith. But the 20%, the 15 to 20% that are overly partisan, they're energized and promoted and pushed forward if they carry on like this. So that needs to stop. And by giving powers back to the members of Parliament and the Speaker and the citizens, we can rebalance the system. By giving the Speaker the powers to punish bad behavior and also reward good behavior, he can then, or she could then, take control back of the House of Commons. That would really improve debate. Another thing I was going to do for the members of Parliament, remember I said that my motion only came up at the end, and even then I was lucky because it was a draw. That's not right. You have some MPs that are there 10, 12 years, and just because they're unlucky in the draw, they never get up. Wow. Because every 4 years. So I was going to fix that too. This motion was going to say, look, on average, you never know because the government might follow that, but on average in a 4-year period, every member of Parliament would get a chance to present a bill or a motion. And to do that, we had to introduce something called a second chamber, which they've had for 20 years in Australia, 25 years in the UK, 20 years in Australia. Not new ideas that have been around a generation. There's so many things that we need to do that you can't say, wow, Frank, you're really out there. No, these are things that are done all other jurisdictions, and we were just going to bring them to Canada. And that would really make us more productive in that. And members of Parliament then, I would have had a chance to bring this and let people at least vote on it.
So the second chamber is the idea that you'd have a concurrent series of meetings. It doesn't even have to be big room. It can just be.
That's right. It's a different type of thing, and it's a chamber. It doesn't look like the House of Commons. It looks more like a committee room, and it has different rules. So it has better debates. Generally speaking, we don't do very highly partisan stuff there, and it's an opportunity for members of Parliament to speak out on issues,
Right.
to get more things talked about in a more cordial manner. So it would bring a lot to the table. And interestingly enough, the Procedures Committee had just completed a study on a second chamber when I brought forward this whole package to present and say, well, here it is written up. And I should also point out that I did not write up that section. I wrote up no section of this motion. It was all written up by these different people. And that one there was written up by Scott Reed of the Conservative Party.
Are most of the other members of this group running again?
I believe so, yes. Yes, they all are.
So there's a chance they might.
I don't
It
know.
might carry on.
I don't. I can't speak for anybody else, but I can certainly say that the desire to improve the system is enormous. I'll give you another example. One of the things we're going to fix too was that the way the House of Commons is run is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. What happens is that the opposition, and the Liberals did it while they were in opposition as much as the Conservatives did it. The opposition feels that their job is not to critique or improve, but just to delay. So if they can stall, they think, well, we've done a wonderful job. And then the government says, well, we have less and less time, so what do? We make omnibus bills, and then we have to ram them through. And then we have to stay late, we have to vote overnight, all kinds of things which are very bad for your physical health. Very bad for your physical health. For example, 2 men died at their desks. 2 Conservative men died during the 4 years that I was there at their desk. 5 or 6 members died. 3 of a heart attacks. I think 2 of cancer, 1 of Lou Gehrig's disease.
Right.
While I was in Parliament.
Right.
This job is overly taxing the way that it's run, and it's not even run that it's productive. You can't say, hey, we worked really late, at least we got something done. No, we worked really late, got nothing done for no reason. 3 times we had to do overnight voting, more than 24 hours. This is ridiculous. So one part of the motion was to bring, like, you can't do this anymore. There'd be no overnight voting. And I thought that was great. Say that at 10:30 at night, we would suspend, and then people would come back at 9 a.m. And then one member, as I was showing this, he said to me, listen, Frank, as an MP, voting is one of the most important things I do, but you haven't put a break for a bathroom break in here. I can't go 12 hours without a bathroom break. He says it's even against all the employment laws and that. You have to have a break every 4 hours. I thought, geez, I didn't even think of that. I was so focused on stopping the horrendous 24 plus hours of nonstop voting that I thought I was doing great. And most people thought that's great, but he said, no, we can even do better. So I was taking a lot of feedback as I was developing it. I thought that's a wonderful idea. Every 4 hours, we should have a 15-minute bathroom break.
Right.
We don't have any of that stuff. And he was saying, look, it's really important to me. I don't miss a vote. But I can't. I'm a human being. So all this kind of things we were going to try and fix. Another thing we're going to try and fix is that when we have votes, and the style of votes, it's always ridiculous. What that means is that they all pride themselves on having a snap vote at the last minute and trying to catch the other side off guard, and they think, aren't we smart, aren't we funny? I don't know what they think, but it's nonsensical.
Well, that's a really interesting point. From an outsider's point of view, I found it always quite frustrating that committee meetings would be cut in half. People would have meetings scheduled and they wouldn't happen. So people would fly all the way to Ottawa,
Absolutely.
travel there.
Disgraceful.
And then not be able to meet because there was a sudden vote.
And the sudden vote was always about nothing. Be sure of that too. What you said is 100% true. We'd be sitting in a committee meeting. People have flown in to give testimony. They prepared it. And then we have a vote, which means that we want to continue the day. We had this, or that the debate continues because the opposition or even our own government would have thought of something very funny to do to try and stall or to overcome a stalling or to ram something through. So this disrespect of not just ourselves and our own health, but all the people that come to Ottawa to speak to us, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable, and it's not necessary. It's truly not necessary.
Yeah, it really is. For somebody in Ottawa, you get used to it, or you live in Ottawa, you can come back the next day type of thing. But people who've come in from out of town, sometimes, paying their own personal fair to get there
absolutely.
and not get a chance to speak.
No, it's just absolutely unacceptable. And that happens all the time, as you said. And you get used to it. Well, that's one of the reasons I'm not running again. Is I looked around and I saw a lot, and people said, Frank, that's the way it is. Get used to it, accept it. And I said to myself, no, I'm not going to accept this.
But isn't that too bad that people who come there for the right reason get cheesed off because the system isn't working? That's another commentary on the system, isn't it?
Well, I said there's no way I'm going back to that. Doesn't mean if I never know how the stars align or whatever, but if I had the chance to go back with the mandate to fix a place, I'd be very interested in doing that. Very interested in doing that. But to go back and do the same old thing, to waste my time, to really put my own personal health at risk, to see members of parliament dying of heart attacks at their desk, all for naught. None of it. And I don't want people to feel that they were working late at long hours because we got better laws or anything like that. That's not the case at all. It's because wasted time. And there's so much to do. So many of our laws are behind. So many of our laws need to catch up. There's just so much work to do. It might seem banal or maybe not super interesting to everybody, but there's laws that are behind that need to be updated, cleaned up. Regulations need to be updated. Other ones need to be put away. There's just a lot of work to be done. We're not getting half. I won't speculate how much, but there's so much more we should be doing. And the other part too is that if you're not in government, you should still be able to contribute. And the way the system theoretically is designed, you should. But because the power's at the center and it's so partisan, if you've got a great idea but you happen not to be in government, you're in opposition or second opposition, really good luck with that. Even if you have a great idea and you're a backbencher in the government, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Even getting it up. And that's not the way the system is supposed to be run.
Well, that was an interesting contribution that you've made so far. And I'll be watching to see how that carries on, because I think you've really hit on something that I think a lot of people are very concerned about outside politics.
I agree with you. A lot of people told me, Frank, nobody cares about this stuff. I'm just telling you what I ran. I ran into so many roadblocks. So one of them was, Frank, nobody outside Ottawa cares about this stuff. And I thought, I disagree. Anybody I speak to, the average citizen, would like to see us cut out the bad behavior, cut out the yelling, the screaming, the not answering questions, or the asking stupid questions. They'd like to believe we're there working hard to make the country better. And they know what they see. They go, well, that's not it.
Yeah.
So we could have differences of opinions. No one's got all the answers, but that we should be working together for the betterment of our country. That's number one. And I always had that in the back of my mind. That's why I was never